What's up, everyone? My name is Raul Seha, and welcome to the Creative Seha channel, where we'll talk about all things photography, videography, and branding. This time around, I'm working with a graphic designer. His name is Sam, and we're working on updating my logo. Sam provided 5 examples, and this is our conversation about that. And why we're updating my current logo is because I think it's overly masculine, super blocky, and it doesn't speak aesthetically to who I am as a person. So I've asked for help from one of the best graphic designers that I know of. A little bit of a disclaimer here before we get started. One is that I'm not trying to monetize. I'm not trying to sell you anything. I'm not trying to convert you into a client or anything like that. I think this content is super beneficial for those that are interested in knowing what the process is like to build a contemporary brand. 2 is that this video is pretty long, so it won't satisfy the need for 90% of you, but it may be interesting to 10% of you who are willing to take action on this for your own brand. And this is for that 10%. I hope you enjoy. Thank you for sending me over the concepts. Today we'll just talk about how to refine some of those, and then
Yeah.
Cool.
So should we go through each concept, or do you want to first maybe talk about the concepts that you did like, and then we can move from there?
How about you talk about all of them, and then we can just refine them, and then talk about just 1 or 2 specifically that I drilled down to.
Yeah, that sounds good. Okay, so let's start with concept 1. So this is the first concept that I was working on. I really paid attention to some of the words that you were mentioning in regards to how you wanted the brand to feel. And so I think you had mentioned that the old logo was very blocky and
Right.
very overly masculine. And so I wanted to move away from that as much as I can. And I wanted to create something that had some space and that was kind of a little more, I guess you could say, a little more classy, a little more um, thin. I wanted something light, and always thinking about how you would use that in regards to like your branding. And so I was thinking of maybe just taking like a light thin font and maybe like almost like a stamp logo. And so this is the first concept that I was working on. I found this great font online, and I liked the kind of curves in the R.
Right.
I like the space that was given to this font. I just think that it is really nice, and we could kind of take some of these elements and like the font and even like the logo itself, maybe removing the creative RC and just having the logo as something like a visual marker. So this is the first concept that I was working on.
I like this one because I feel like there's something in the stamp, right, and the
Yeah.
CRC. A challenge that I've had going back and forth whether or not to stick with creative RC or have Raul Seha creative, but there's so much in just the seal in the stamp that I really like, and it does provide a lot of white space, and just it feels like you could breathe, right?
Right. Right.
This one was kind of similar to like the St. Clair logo that I had shared with you that I really like.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like this one. I think this one was one of my top 3.
Nice. So this is one of the later ones I was working on. I like this version a lot. This is so that's why I brought it up to our concept 2. This had a very ornate quality, similar to the St. Clair and the St. Frank branding that you have. It has a lot of that Art Nouveau styles, with the curvature in the A and the curvatures of the R. This one, I wanted to really create something that that was close to what you had provided. So, and like I said, this one came out towards the end of the exploration, and I think there's something there. I think we could refine this a little bit, but I think we have this option has some really good bones.
I like this one as well. There is something there. It does resemble a little bit, or it reminds me of the Ceja Vineyard
Mhm.
logo. More so because of this bell here that's on the J. But
Correct.
I do feel like there's something there. But I felt as though I was reaching a little bit for
Gotcha.
me to feel something about it.
I see. Concept 3 came in pretty early.
Okay.
I really like how uh, these little small motifs in the type itself, the diamonds.
Hmm.
Um, I thought that was very similar to what I thought you were going for in your brand, and so I played with the title. So instead of Creative RC, I went RC Creative, and then I added these if you could see those the drop shadows within the R and the C.
Right.
Um, this is something that we could carry on throughout the brand. Like if we wanted to bring words, like I think you had mentioned like coffee, maybe the coffee could live there,
Hmm.
and then your name could live within the type and the diamond. So I thought there was a lot of options on how we can expand this look.
Uh-huh.
And so like I just feel that there's definitely something here, and I think it's pretty close to what you're going for, and this is why I made it concept 3. Yeah.
I really like this one as well. I think that the shadows and just the way that the elements provide themselves, it feels as though that there's layers to this logo or this brand, and that's very much true when it comes to like branding, photography, or videography, or being in the creative world, as you know.
Right.
It's nothing is as simple as it seems, and I think that there's a lot of depth here, and I'd be interested to see how it looks like without white space in the background.
Okay.
And I think that this can really pop out. So this was probably one of my favorite ones.
This was something that I wanted to provide. I don't think it hits all the markers, but I think that this option had some clarity. It had class. It kind of reminded me almost of like a designer brand. And
Yeah.
I was thinking that when you did mention in the email about taking the creative and maybe switching it out for the different options that you've had creative in your creative brand, I think that we had something that we could play with. Personally, this is like one of my favorite fonts. I think that there's like an elegance to this that's really nice, as well as some a little more on the masculine side. But I think when I'm thinking about your brand and thinking about the illustrations that you wanted to take. I could really see this like on the left-hand corner. You have the illustration, and then it's almost like a stamp to the left-hand corner or on the right-hand corner. So this is an option that I just wanted to explore. Maybe trying to go. I always like to kind of bring just different options to the client, because you never know where you find those little pieces of creativity that kind of blossom into something really nice. So this
Yeah, I
concept.
I really like this one as well. It does have like a designer feel to it, or like a fashion feel to it,
Yeah.
and it reminds me a lot more of like the East Coast branding. I don't know. I could see this on a perfume bottle, or
Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
I could see this definitely at Macy's or Nordstrom, and it does have a sense of maturity as well. Like it feels to me like this represents something that has longevity and that has been around for quite some time, and it's
Right.
just sits nice.
Right.
So that to me would be my second favorite.
Nice. Okay, let's go to option 6. this came in my exploration. This is probably like smack dab in the middle. This type I thought was playful. I love a lot of those kind of the motifs in the type with the ball, and I just thought it had a kind of a playful attitude, but I still think it kind of hit a lot of the markers that you were looking for.
Mm-hmm.
And I like how this option creates just different different layout elements for all your creative endeavors, you know. So we could take, instead of creative, we could say Raul Ceja, and then um, maybe in the RC in the capital letters, we could say creative, or vice versa.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so it could say media RC, or it could say like coffee
Mm-hmm.
RC, you know. So
I
there's a
see.
lot of options there. Um, I think that this option has, I think it still needs to kind of I guess what I'm trying to say is I still feel this option has some ways to go, but
Mm-hmm.
I think that this is something that kind of checks off all your
One of the it feels like it's a combination from the first two
right.
elements or logos. One of the things that I keep going back and forth on is first, what should be first, right? Raul Ceja or the creative, or
Right,
yeah,
right.
or coffee or whatever.
That's a great question. Yeah.
And I think at this point I would like to have a little bit more recognition on my first and last name, because you can switch creative media, whatever endeavor that I'm venturing into, to not instantly. I think the hard part would be to recognize my name in all of it, right? So I think that's kind of what I'm feeling towards. I do think that this one is a little bit more playful and fun, and there's still, like you said, a little bit more to explore with this one.
Yeah. Okay.
And then the last one, right?
And the last one. This one when I was creating this logo, I like the kind of architectural elements within the type. The R and the C, it felt like almost like a block, and then we could kind of play with the creative, like it could say coffee, or it could say design, things like that. So it's really just, if you look at the type itself in a more architectural way, you can kind of see how, you know, you have your big block and then your thin block, and then, you know, we could actually play with those elements within the brand.
Yeah.
So it was just an option that I think that was worth providing. Um, it is a little more on the masculine side, but I still think, you know, the serifs in the type of RC are not as masculine as some like of the block letters that you had mentioned before. But I just wanted to provide this one as well. I think there's something there. It's not quite finished, but there's definitely something there.
Yeah, I really like this one too. I think the serif and sans serif really complement each other on this one,
Yeah.
and it just flows. It's elegant, but then it's also, there's a little bit of old school like tradition, and then there's the new wave as well. I really like this one. It's really it's what I've seen more and more is that there's often mixtures between serifs and sans serifs
Yes.
now in 2020. I think that's the way most logos are going now that are new. I like this one as well. I would say in terms of the ratings, I think that this would be my third favorite one.
Nice. So those are the options. Like I said in the email, this is our kind of our first initial beating. And so from here, we can kind of go in there and kind of finesse some of the options that you really like.
Cool. I really like that third concept, and as it being one of the primary ones.
Nice.
I keep going back and forth, Sam. I don't know. Like, what do you think? I think that the layers and being mysterious and kind of allowing a little bit of depth to the brand, to my brand specifically, um, provides a little bit of more mystique and curiosity, I guess. But then
Yeah,
there's something to be said about the very simple fashion brand that you can see at Nordstrom or Macy's, just because it's there and it's mature and it's simple. So I keep going back and forth on those two. I don't
well,
I don't know if you have any thoughts on that.
um, I think you brought up a great point for option four about how it felt established, and
Hmm.
I felt like timeless almost.
Right.
Sometimes when you're working with very ornate styles, they tend to. It just depends. Like they could get very what's the word I'm looking for? Very it almost feels like they just can't live from the era that it was created.
Hmm.
So, like an option, a good example of where the opposite of this, where if you take the Coca-Cola logo, the script font, for some reason that just kind of it just screams like a sense of beauty and timelessness. And sometimes when you're working with just simple type, it carries those same elements within the timelessness of an option like this.
Hmm.
So we could explore it. I guess if we were to look into bringing concept four into the next phase, I think it would be really just kind of taking that logo and bringing it into different elements. Say
Right.
like maybe like an e-blast form, how that would look, or maybe like a quick fact sheet or like an illustration, and how that would live and how we could kind of play with that. I think that
Hmm.
would be the next option there. Um,
Hmm. I like the sense of what you just mentioned right now, which is the sense of timelessness, and I think that that is uh, in that resembles nostalgia,
right.
and that is something that I'm really about.
And then,
Uh,
and if I do take, sorry to interrupt, but if I do take concept four and kind of give it kind of the acid test and start pulling that logo into different elements, sometimes it just kind of reveals itself, and we could kind of step back and say, "Whoa, okay, this is not working like we wanted it to work." So,
mhm.
I think if you want to just take both of these options into that next phase, I think that it's definitely worth exploring. Yeah.
Okay, I think let's do that because yeah, I would want to see this at play.
Right.
I think that that is the key here because it'll look very different once it's at play.
Yeah.